All right, guys, it is our great pleasure to have our next on. He is a current UFC champion. To be more specific, he is the Bantamweight UFC champion of the world. He is none other than TJ Dillashaw, and he's back on Submission Radio today. TJ, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you?
Doing good. It's always a pleasure to be on. Thank you.
We always love having you on. It's been a long time since we've had you on. In fact, the last time you were on the show, it was actually around the time that the first Renan Barao fight was announced before you were champion. A lot's changed, obviously. You've become champion since then. I guess the biggest question is, since winning the title, become champion, what's the biggest significant change in your life?
Just how busy I am. I'm always on the road doing appearances and seminars and going to all the fights and doing all the UFC PR. Just a lot more busy.
Now, everybody knows you defended your title once in a performance of the night fashion. We're already hearing that, you've been talking about possibly wanting to fight one of the pound-for-pound greats, Jose Aldo. Tell us, what was your motivation for, saying that you'd want to fight Aldo?
That's me. I was on TAM Radio, teamalphamale.radio.com, and we have our own podcast. And it was after Chad Mendez's fight. We were talking about the fight and how close it was, and Aldo as a champion. And I just believed that I could beat the guy. Watching his style is very similar to Barao's, and I feel like I have the right style to beat him. And it's just me, displaying my confidence in that. I mean, obviously I know I need to hold my belt, for a few more fights and look dominant, run through Dominick Cruz, and and make sure I'm dominant at 135 before I even think about going to a different weight class and trying to capture another belt. But once I got the UFC belt, I had to set new goals, and that was maybe being the first one to have two belts at the same time. And looking at Aldo fighting, I just know that I can beat him.
It's pretty awesome that, obviously, like Dennis mentioned, you're like a fresh champion, and already you're looking at things like that, and you've already got those kind of goals. What do you see as your biggest strengths and assets against Jose Aldo?
Oh, my footwork and my style of fighting. I have a certain style that I've worked on for beating Renan Barao, and I feel like it'd be very effective against Jose Aldo. I think almost even, I wouldn't say easier. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's a really, really, really tough fight.
Yeah.
But, Barao, in my mind, not Barao, Aldo, in my mind, is a very predictable fighter. He does the same things every time he comes out and fights. And, I just have the belief of being able to beat him, and that'll take you a long way.
TJ, you sound like you have a lot of respect for Aldo, and I think it's something that's lost these days. A lot of people aren't giving Aldo the respect that he deserves. You know Aldo better than anyone because a lot of people in your camp have fought him before. Tell us, what do you think about Aldo as champion? Because obviously, I don't think as many people give him respect that he really deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very dangerous opponent and very technically structurally sound. He doesn't do anything wrong. He's never in bad position. He's always got his hands up. He's throwing the technique perfectly. He's a great champion. He's obviously on the pound-for-pound list in the right spots. So I have a lot of respect, not only for Barao, but for that whole camp. Everything that Pederneiras has done with all of his guys there. Barao was an amazing champion as well. There's no lack of respect for those guys. And I've looked up to what they've done, what the history they've already done. You can't take that away from them.
Sure. Now, after the Joe Soto fight, you had the corrective surgery for your elbow. I believe you had bursitis. We heard that you were running almost a month ago. How's the body and how's the elbow now?
It's been really good. I had surgery about 5 weeks ago. It's healing up nice, and I'm starting to get back into shape and hit mitts. I haven't been able to do any grappling or go live yet just because of the fact that, I want to make sure it heals up right. I don't want to ruin the surgery that I just got. So I'm taking the right precautions of coming back the right way and getting in shape before I get in there and start going live so I don't get hurt and have a healthy camp for Dominick Cruz. So, everything's going really, really well.
Well, speaking of Dominick Cruz, which is, going to be another very, very exciting fight, before we talk about that fight, we just want to get your opinion. What did you think of Cruz's dominant return to the octagon? What did you think of his performance?
Not so much just technique-based, but I was more impressed with he was finally aggressive. I've always seen Dominick Cruz fight, and he's kind of on the outside, pitter-pattering, and moving around, and he's just winning fights by points. This might be his first finish ever, and for it to finally come this far out in his career, and to someone like Muzagaki, it's impressive. It's good for him that he's finally getting that killer instinct, but I'm also going to use that against him. He's going to switch his style up. He's going to get a little too aggressive, I think, and he's going to wear himself out, and my cardio is going to last forever.
He had a few things to say about Team Alpha Male after his big win. Maybe emotions were still running through his body. What did you think when you heard those comments?
Me and Dominick Cruz have always had a respectful relationship. Him and Uriah have had words and don't like each other, and that's where that all comes from. It's him just kind of, putting it back in Uriah's face that he's out there winning and looking good, and it's nothing but good for me because of the fact that it's going to still fight. He's going to talk all this crap and be as confident as he wants to be, but really it's just going to make it harder on himself when he loses. It's going to put more pressure on him when he steps and knocks it out against me, and it's going to do nothing but drive the numbers up, and it is going to be a great fight. I've never talked to anybody that wasn't excited about this fight, so like I said, it's just selling it big time.
And when it happens, it's going to be absolutely awesome. You and Dominic are always being compared to each other in terms of styles, and people say you have similar footwork. What would you say that you do better than Dominic?
I knock people out. I finish fights. I'm aggressive. I'm coming at you. There's never one point in the time where you can let your guard down, because if you do, you're going to get knocked out. And, with Dominick Cruz, he's a lot less dangerous. He doesn't have the power behind his punches because he doesn't settle his feet. He's always dipping out of the way and throwing his punches. And when you're doing that, you can't deliver any power behind your punches. Yeah, sure, is it flashy and you score a lot of points? Yeah, but I can do the exact same thing, but then bring some power with it and be a little bit lethal and dangerous. I think my combos are more technical. I stay a little bit tighter than he does, and I feel like my grappling's a whole lot better than his. He uses anti-jiu-jitsu. He gets the takedowns to score points. I'm trying to take you down to finish you. I'm going to stay on top of him. I'm going to leech onto him, and I just feel I'm a whole lot more dangerous than he is in every aspect of MMA.
Dominic was obviously champion before he was stripped of the title due to inactivity. And obviously, you've done such a great job as the UFC champion. But is there any part of you that feels like your journey to being a champion is incomplete until you beat Dominick Cruz? Like, to be the undisputed champ, you have to go through Cruz?
Not necessarily. I mean, I've always wanted to fight Cruz because of the fact he was the champion when I got in the weight class. But, no, I mean, I definitely feel like I've held my own and done it in great fashion. The fact that the way I beat Barao and defended my belt, to me, that was good enough to secure me being the best in the world. And I really do believe I'm way better than Dominick Cruz. So, in my mind, I'm the champion. He's got to come and try to get it. And I'm gonna put him on the back burner, and I'm gonna try to finish his career.
Sure. And, you mentioned Barao. Obviously, you guys, I mean, I wouldn't say you had the rematch. It was obviously set up. Now, you guys were very competitive up until that point and had this organic rivalry. When he didn't make weight, he obviously didn't get paid and didn't get to the fight for the strap. I'm just curious, on a sort of personal level, did you feel sorry for him at all that happened? Or was it more like, well, you didn't prepare properly, it is what it is?
I was a little more pissed off and feeling sorry for him, I didn't really agree with the rematch to begin with. He got dominated. He got his butt kicked, and he didn't have an answer for it. And so I didn't even feel like he deserved the rematch. But obviously that was the big fight. That was a fight everyone wanted to see and see if it would happen again. I gave him his shot, and I said, like, whatever, bring whoever you want to me, I'm going to fight him. That's just the personality I have in fighting. And, I feel if he's never once ever missed weight in all of the years of him fighting, then all of a sudden he decides to miss weight, less than 24 hours before we're going to fight, or 24 hours before we're going to fight. It's just kind of, I just don't think he wanted it. I mean, this is professional. This is how you make your money. This is your name. This is your legacy, and you're going to miss weight. To me, it doesn't seem like it was just a fluke thing. I don't think he wanted to fight me. I think his coaches wanted it more than he did.
Now, TJ, we're pretty excited to see you in the new Reebok uniforms, coming out very soon. Tell us, what did you think when you found out about the new Reebok partnership with the UFC? And also, there's been some concerns about fighters losing sponsors, and it's not the same monetarily for them. Just wondering, with the Reebok sponsorship, is that something you're happy about?
I am. I'm happy about it because of the fact that it's just going to look a little bit more professional when we're in the cage. Everyone's going to be wearing Reebok. You won't be having these just off the wall sponsors, and you're not going to have dynamic fastener everywhere. You're going to have clean looking cut Reebok gear, and I feel like it takes the stress off of me of having to trying to find that apparel sponsor before I have my fight, and it's just a set in stone sponsorship, and who knows what the pay is going to be? I have no idea, and hopefully it's the same, if not better. It's a big company, and it just makes our sport a little more professional, kind of like boxing or kind of like football and basketball and baseball. We're all going to be wearing somewhat close to the same uniform with your own personal sponsors on there as well. So I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. Now, TJ, before we jump to the submission radio tap out round to wrap things up, just want to ask you a few fan questions. A fan sent in some questions for you. First one is from the real Brian. TJ, you mentioned in past interviews how you hope Cub Swanson beats Edgar and has a title shot. Now the Cubs lost his title shot. A lot of debate about who should get the next shot. Many people say it should be Edgar, while it looks like Conor McGregor may get it if he beats Seaver. What are your thoughts on McGregor getting a shot at Aldo next, and who do you think wins between the two?
Who getting a shot at Aldo next?
Looks like Conor McGregor may get the shot next.
Yeah, I don't agree with Conor McGregor getting a title shot, especially after beating Dennis Seaver if he does. Why is that deserving of a title shot? Dennis Seaver is not on the way up. He's not up there looking for a title shot himself. Why not put Conor McGregor versus Frankie Edgar? Why not put Conor McGregor against Chad Mendez or Lamas, or one of those top guys that's actually pushing for the belt? Just because he has a hype behind him, he can talk big game, and he's going to sell tickets. I just don't think it's right to surpass the Frankie Edgars, the guys that can beat Conor McGregor. I think Frankie Edgar would destroy Conor McGregor. Chad Mendez would destroy Conor McGregor. We haven't seen Conor McGregor fight a wrestler or a top name. He beat Poirier with a fluke punch to the back of the head in my mind, and I was excited to see that fight go down. I wanted to see it go longer. Do I think Conor McGregor is a great fighter? Yes, he's awesome. He's really good. He's confident. He has great stand-up, and he's tricky. But I just don't feel like he's deserved it yet. I don't think he should surpass those guys in the shot. And the thing is, though, if he does fight Aldo, he does have a chance because it's going to be a stand-up battle, and then Aldo doesn't have that threatening takedown skills and going to try to tap you out or ground and pound you. So it's tough. I don't think he should get the title fight because he doesn't deserve it, but it's going to be a close fight in my mind.
Now, we got the next question here from Blue Snoops. He wants to know, TJ, if you beat Cruz, how long before you'd be looking at a possible Dodson rematch?
I feel it's so funny to hear those questions because, for one, Dodson hasn't even fought at 35 other than our Ultimate Fighter finale. I don't feel like he gets a rematch until he can establish himself at the weight class. He's not even the champion at 125. Why should he get to fight me? If he wants to fight me, prove that he can be good and beat some of the top 5 guys in the weight class, which I don't think he can. So unless he can prove that, I would love to fight the guy again, but again, that's another situation where he's just not deserving of a rematch.
Absolutely. Now, TJ, we're going to wrap up the interview with the submission-rated tap-out round. We did it a while ago. I'm not sure if you remember. Basically, we fire out a bunch of fun questions at you, and you answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Has Martin Kampmann tried to hustle you out of some dollars in poker yet?
Has who?
Martin Kampmann.
Oh, he has. He's taken me I've been to a poker tournament with him. He wants me to always play against him. He's a great poker player, so it's just not fair. But I've had some fun playing some poker with him.
TJ, when Team Alpha Male does Christmas carols, which ones are at the top of the list?
I think it's the Jingle Bells. But then we do the one where it's Batman smells and that whole good deal. We're immature and like the humorous jokes.
Somewhere there's a viral YouTube video out of this. Now, on your Instagram, which is TJ Dillashaw, there was a picture with you and a banana saying that you bought it for Kampmann and that it was the most expensive banana. To paint a picture for those who haven't seen your Instagram, it's basically you. You looked like you were at a poker tourney and the banana was on a platter.
Yep.
What's the story with that?
Yeah.
There's a single banana peel.
That's the poker tournament that Kampmann took me to up in Reno, and we're at the same table in this poker tournament just by random draw, and he actually goes out before me, but he ordered a banana to eat at the table, and they bring it to him. It's like a $5 banana, and they bring it to him on a platter, which is just absurd, Yeah. It's like they had to cook it or prepare it whatsoever, and so he loses, and they still bring the banana to the table, and I just claimed it. I didn't know if he paid for it or not, but they bring it to me. And then they bring me a $5 bill, which I thought was ridiculous. So I had to post it on Instagram.
The champ needs his potassium.
Now, TJ, in one of the UFC, I don't know if you remember, but in one of the UFC embeddeds, you had to borrow your wife's car because yours was too messy. Are we right to assume that TJ Dillashaw, much like us, doesn't like to clean his car very often?
Oh, man, my car's a locker room. Yeah, I got sweaty clothes in there. I got my stinky gloves. It's one of those things where my wife doesn't even want to ride in my vehicle because it's so gross. But
Good.
then I'll go and randomly clean it. But I'm so focused on getting to the gym and training. That's the last thing on my mind is cleaning my car.
Good. If the champ treats his car like that, then we can as well. Now,
Exactly.
we spoke to Joseph Benavidez, I think 2 weeks ago, who mentioned how much of a food whore he is, or he likes to be between fights. Are you the same, or is your diet pretty strict between fights?
No, usually his diet's horrible between not between fights, but after his fight, give him a good 3 weeks to a month of eating whatever he wants, everything in sight. I don't even think he drinks water within those 3 weeks.
Yeah.
He's drinking milkshakes and sodas, all things that he hasn't been able to eat since he's been cut into 25s. But just recently, he's gotten more serious with his diet on the off season. He's doing a lot better. He's not blowing up to 150. He's doing a good job of staying in the 40s and staying lean. But we used to call him the beefcake because he gets so big in between his fights. He would lose all muscle definition and eat way too much food and just kind of eat just the grossest things possible just because he knows he can.
The question though was, what about you? Like, are you the same, or are you more strict with your diet?
I'm pretty strict. I mean, obviously, I do my fair share eating, a couple of weeks after the fight, but I kind of spread out my junk food. I don't go on a binge. I just feel like it's a lot easier on my body with the next weight cut if I stay somewhat close to my diet. And I'm one of those guys that likes to eat good food. I'll gorge on eating good stuff. And if you do that, it's not as bad on your body. I don't have a sweet tooth. I don't eat a bunch of chocolate. It's more of just eating mass amounts of good food.
Let's change topics for a second. You got married in June this year. It's always been 6 months. So give the listeners one marriage tip in case they ever decide to tie the knot.
Oh, the wife is always right. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, that's the truth. Now, TJ, if you had to pick one genre of music to listen to for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That's a tough one because I like listening to everything. But I'm a huge Chili Peppers fan. I probably stick to that kind of genre. Do some rock, some. Yeah, I probably have to stay there. It'd be tough though. That's a tough one. To only listen to one genre of music for the rest of your life, that'd be tough.
TJ, you took a photo with Jeremy Piven at UFC 181. Did you get a chance to discuss any of your favorite Entourage Ari Gold moments with him?
I tried not to, even though I wanted to, because I'm sure he gets it all the time. I just kind of wanted to treat him as the actor he is and not just the movies he's been in. He was a really cool, down-to-earth guy and a huge MMA fan. He knew a lot about me and a lot about the sport, and I think that's one of the coolest things when you get to meet people like that. I actually got to meet Anthony Kiedis, too, at a fight in San Jose, and I was just really surprised at how big a fan he was of mine and fighting in general, and that's a really cool feeling.
Awesome. Now, last time we spoke to you, TJ, you clarified that you are in fact not the Viper and that it is not your nickname. We still see journalists using the Viper in articles. Is this still the case that you're not the Viper, or have you just given up and started using it because it's stuck?
No, I've never used it, and I actually don't like it. My friends started giving me crap when I got off Ultimate Fighter, and I don't know how, but someone gave me a nickname on Viper on Sure Dog as a Viper, and so they were giving me crap about it. So it's always just kind of bugged me when I hear it,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why it stuck around because I let it bother me. But it's definitely not my nickname.
Now, TJ, I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but one of the biggest UFC events of all time is being planned for Etihad Stadium in November in Melbourne. If everything goes to plan, would that be a card that you'd be interested in fighting on? And if so, could you please give us a dream opponent that you'd like to face in front of the sold-out 56,000-seat stadium in Melbourne?
I would love to fight in Melbourne. It'd be awesome. I've been there. I would taught some seminars out there when Joseph fought out in Sydney. And it's a really cool place. I'd love to come out and fight out there. Opponent-wise, I don't know who'd be next after Cruz. It all depends on what goes down and who wins their fights. My dream opponent is just the number one contender. I like to beat the best that's ready in line. I know it'd be even cooler if I actually got to fight Aldo at 45. That'd be sweet. Since we talked about it, that'd be an awesome matchup for me.
Well, we need 56,000 people there, so that'd definitely be a matchup that'd get people out of their houses. Just a few more questions, TJ. Since becoming champion, how many boats and or water vessels have you bought? Choose from the following: 18, 19, or 27.
Definitely 27.
Excellent.
I have just 27. They're all Malibu boats too.
Oh,
I have a
nice.
whole fleet of them. Yeah.
DJ, if you had a book written about your life, what would the title be?
That's tough. Let's go with the same title as my documentary. Let's go Fearless.
Fearless? I like it. Now, TJ, here's
Yeah.
another one for you. What would you rather named after you? A McDonald's food item or a font?
Or a font, you said?
Yeah. Like imagine a billboard and there's writing and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's the Dillashaw size 193."
Yeah, actually, I would like to go with the font because I feel like it'd be more widely used, And then I don't want to be associated with McDonald's whatsoever. I don't support eating McDonald's at all.
TJ, explain this Lieutenant Dan nickname to us, please.
So when I very first started training with Team Alpha Male, I came into the gym and I knew nothing about boxing or striking whatsoever. But one of my first practices, like first week being there was sparring, and I got into the boxing ring, and I believe I was fighting a kid that his name is Scott McAfee, I believe, or it might have been Joseph Benavidez. I can't recall the exact one it was, but I remember being in the ring, getting beat up, and swinging as hard as I possibly can, and swinging haymakers, getting tagged up, bleeding from my nose, and then just getting so angry that I wasn't doing good enough that I'm yelling at my opponent, yelling at him, telling him to bring it harder, cussing him out kind of deal, just yelling and bringing it as hard as I possibly can. And then when I got done, Uriah told me it reminded me of Lieutenant Dan in the movie Forrest Gump. When he's on the ship, he's on top of the ship, and there's a hellacious storm, and he's just yelling at God, just pissed off, telling him to bring it as hard as he possibly can. And that's where the nickname came from. TJ Lieutenant Dan Dillashaw is what Uriah first started calling me.
Well, we haven't yet heard Bruce Buffer say it. We've taken the liberties. This is the last question, by the way. After the whole Viper debacle, the Submission Radio marketing department has been whisked away from their families at 3 o'clock in the morning, placed in an unmarked van and driven to a factory off the coast of Barbados. And in this ONHS unfriendly workspace, they've come up with 3 nicknames for you to choose from, and you got to pick your favorite one. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, we've got TJ the Sushi Destroyer Dillashaw. It's the first one.
Okay.
Then we've got Sir Timothy James Dillashaw III. I know your name's Tyler Jeffrey, but still. And then the last one is TJ Killishaw Dillashaw.
You said Killishaw?
Killishaw.
Yeah, I like it. Especially because a lot of guys at the gym call me Killishaw as well, so that works out perfect. I think Killishaw would probably be the best choice, even though I do like the Sushi Destroyer.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's the Sushi Destroyer / Killishaw. I think it should be replaced in the Wikipedia there, TJ. I think it's time to replace the Viper. Now, guys, you can follow him on Twitter at TJ Dillashaw. Make sure to visit his website, tjdillashaw.com. There's always great things on there as well. TJ, it's been an absolute pleasure in speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us on Submission Radio. I know all the fans love it.
No problem. Anytime. You guys are a good radio show.